Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So, as most of you know, I have been on vacation, and it was for a whole month. It was long. And one of the things I did on my summer vacation, this is my report, is I went camping. I went with my former wife and my kids camping in the woods of Pennsylvania, of middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And so it was this wonderful opportunity to just unplug, disconnect, be far away from everything in this beautiful place in nature in these woods by a lake. It was gorgeous. The only thing about going on vacation in the year 2020 is that no matter where you go, you can't seem to escape anything. There is, there was the fact that there were other people around the campground and you have to be careful. But even more so, the more we drove into rural country Pennsylvania, the more we began to see political signs and placards that, shall we say, were very representative of the fact that it was a red state, reflecting that political aspiration everywhere. It seemed that it was on every house, on every lawn, placards everywhere, and bumper stickers on every pickup truck on the road. It was just everywhere, so it seemed, as we made our way further and further into the rural parts of Pennsylvania. Despite that, it was beautiful. And then I got back and heard all about these attempts to defund and to hamper the efforts of the United States Postal Service. And it just boggles the mind how no matter where you go, no matter what you do, these signs of polarization, of hatred. There was a sign that was spray painted on a building in rural Pennsylvania that said, "COVID is a plot, World War III." You can't escape this. It's just everywhere. And that's exhausting, isn't it? And so I want to teach something from the Parsha today that in many ways is tailor-made for living in a world that can be exhausting in the constant presence of corruption and lies and hatred. And hopefully, even in looking at these texts that reflect what it means to live in such a world, we can perhaps find some modicum of relief from the insight that the Torah can bring us. That's what I'm going to try to bring us through today in this talk. As Michael pointed out before his Torah reading, the Parsha is called Shoftim. It's called Judges. And it begins with the very important line, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha, that b'chol sha'arecha, you should place judges and magistrates in all of your gates. It is the quintessential teaching that if you're going to build a society, it must be a society that have people in leadership who are looking out for justice, who are looking out for fairness, who are looking out for righteousness and goodness in all aspects of that society. And then it goes on to add a couple of words later, the famous line, tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. So that you will live and you will inherit the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Rashi comments on that line, that powerful line, and says, you should pursue justice so that you will live on the land. That justice and having leaders who understand a society of justice is the sine qua non of the survival of the people on the land. It is life. Without leaders who understand justice, that is death. That is it. It's a very sobering thing, and we've heard that echoed in some of the things we've seen in the media and at the conventions, that there is literally life and death struggles going on. That's reflected in our Parsha as well, and in the teachings. And then I want to focus now on that really poetic doubling up of the word tzedek. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. It's a very unusual use of a doubling up in the Torah. You don't see it this often in this way. It's almost as if the Torah is trying to express a passion for justice, a deep feeling, a deep yearning to pursue justice at all costs. You know, we often comment when we learn Torah that it seems to be devoid of what everybody was feeling. It just kind of says what happens, and we have to fill in the blank. Here's a case the Torah is clearly expressing a profound passion for something, and it's a passion for justice. So the question, of course, that everybody is curious is, what is the meaning of that doubling up? And Ibn Ezra puts out a couple of theories. He said the word appears twice because one must pursue justice, whether it be to one's gain or to one's loss. And he says, or the repetition denotes time after time, all the days of your life, for emphasis. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, a great 19th century rabbi, picked up on this idea of time after time and pointed up something very interesting about the pursuit of justice in society. The Torah, it actually says, justice, justice shall you pursue so that you will live, vayirashta, and that you will inherit the land. And Hirsch says, notices something. He says, this is strange because this is a command for the Israelites once they have already conquered the land. So how could it say that you should pursue justice so that you will inherit the land if we've already inherited it, we've already conquered it? Why is it in the future tense? So Hirsch explains the reason is because you should never assume, simply because you have conquered the land, simply because you have established a society, or in our case, a democracy, that you're done. You're not done. Justice, justice shall you pursue. You have to constantly keep on justice. In other words, he's literally said you have to reconquer the land over and over again through the act of pursuing justice in every dimension of that society. It never ends. And now we're getting this rabbinic idea of human society, which is kind of sobering, which is that we have the potential to create a just society, but it's like when you are working a garden, there are always the weeds that are going to come up. No matter how hard you try, you have to keep weeding the garden. That's the only way to have a garden. You got to keep at it, and they're always going to keep encroaching back again and again. Justice, justice shall you pursue. The Sfat Emet, a Hasidic teacher, talked about this concept also in a very powerful way. He says, justice, justice shall you pursue is akin to another line in the book of Exodus that says, midvar sheker tirchak, which means from falsehoods, from lies, you should distance yourself. Right? They're mirror images of each other. And he says that these are really unique lines in the Torah, both of them. That lies are the thing that the Torah makes patently clear you have to run away from, and justice is the thing you have to run toward. And he says something very, very powerful here. He says, justice, justice you shall pursue is a formula also said in no other case, because this is the foundation of everything. This is why it says pursue. We can never really come to truth in the fullest sense within this lying world. We have to keep pursuing justice, knowing that we have not yet attained it. So you see this theme here, this pattern. I mean, he says it really starkly, the Sfat Emet. This is a lying world. We are all liars. This is a very depressing idea at first when you look at this, like, oy gewalt. So, what's the point? Should we just give up? Should we throw in the towel? It would seem that there's, that the Torah and the rabbis are being so cynical here that the lies are just going to endlessly be there. So what's the point? But that's exactly why the Torah has this line, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. This is the Jewish way of the world. Yes, the brokenness of the world that we find ourselves in is one where lies are part and parcel of this world, where people who are out for self-gain, for people who turn to corruption. Yes, take the long view, look around, it's there, it's always been there. Just as it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, Ein chadash tachat hashamesh, there's nothing new under the sun. We are so frustrated with our society right now because there is so much lies, so much corruption. That's true. But you know what? Our tradition wants us to know it's not new. It's actually always been here. What's different about this moment in history for some of us is that it's more brazen and more out in the open, perhaps, than it has been before. And that's just for those of us who are white. You ask anybody who's black in this society, nothing's changed, right? So we're all just becoming aware of it now in a way that we haven't because it's so brazen. Nevertheless, you must never give up on pursuing justice. Now, I said at the very beginning of this talk that I was going to give some insights from the Torah and I would bring some relief. You feeling relieved yet? I don't think so. This doesn't sound like much of a relief if it's an exhausting attempt which doesn't seem to ever end. So hang on now. I'm going to give you another teaching that hopefully will help us to reframe this and give us deeper insight about why the Torah is saying tzedek, tzedek tirdof, which could really be a point of extraordinary hope for us and for the world. I want to come back to the Hasidic teaching of the Sfat Emet. He says the following thing about pursuing justice. He says, when we pursue justice in this world, we attain it fully in Olam Haba, in the world to come. The verse goes on to say, so that you will live and you will inherit. That is a hint at Olam Haba, the future tense. It will be in the world to come, in the next world, one that is all life. Okay, so here is a typical rabbinic text. Do you feel all better yet? That it seems like, okay, it's not going to work in this world, but in the next world, it'll be good after you die. That's what it seems like, but I want you to take a deep breath with me and look again at this teaching, because I'm gonna get spiritual on you here now, and teach something that I've taught in other settings and in other ways, and I'm gonna bring us to this again. Whenever you see a reference to Olam Haba, things like the world to come in Judaism, as much as that is on one level talking about another world, you have to understand that it's talking about this world. When you see a reference to Olam Haba, take a deep breath. Olam Haba is actually a reference to this world in this very present moment, right here, right now. So whenever it's pointing to Olam Haba, it actually, and this is, I believe, Danny Matt who taught it this way, a great Kabbalah teacher. You can translate Olam Haba as the world that is coming, the world that is coming moment to moment, right? That in this moment, we have the world that is coming. Okay, so what are the implications of this? It means that when we pursue justice, we are creating a just world, of Olam Haba, in the world to come, in the world that is coming now, right here, right now. Every moment we choose to tell the truth instead of lie, every moment that we act from our deepest integrity, every moment that we make the choice to fight against discrimination and injustice and oppression, every moment that we take an action that counters corruption, that calls out corruption in the world, we have achieved Olam Haba in the moment. And that, and this, bear with me, that is cosmically and infinitely valuable, because this moment is all there really is. That's what the rabbis are really pointing to when they talk about Olam Haba. It's right here. And so I can't emphasize enough how important this is. It doesn't actually matter how small or how big or epic your act of justice is. They're all equal when they're done wholeheartedly in the present moment. When you apologize for lying, when you fess up to a wrong you have done, when you seek to make right something that you have wronged, or when you go out to others and you seek to rectify an injustice that is happening to others, whether it be something tiny, something little or something huge, whether it's arguing before the Supreme Court, in the moment that you engage in any one of those activities, they are all equal in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the universe. They are equal because in that moment, you have transformed that present moment into Olam Haba, into the world that is coming through that action. In that moment, you have inherited the land. You have reconquered the land. Your power to do tzedek is transforming the world, moment to moment. I hope I'm expressing the power of this teaching. It is really a very beautiful insight. You know, we're taking that opportunity here at Kol Shalom. I'm very proud of our Kol Tzedek committee that is working incredibly hard, that we have this wonderful postcard writing campaign where we're going out and helping people to fight the forces that are trying to disenfranchise them. And I hope every single one of us are participating in that. I hope that every single one of us doesn't just vote in this coming election, but that we go out and do what we can to ensure that everybody has that vote and that everybody is participating in this democracy and saving our democracy. I hope that all of us are engaged in this way. Because when we read those headlines, or when we see these ads or these expressions of a very different interpretation of the world, one that leads to so much darkness and corruption, we can become very discouraged. But you know what? You can do something right then because you have that Olam Haba. You have that present moment. Look at your relationships. Look at your life. Look at your work. Look at your actions. Anything you do is equal to the most significant cosmic thing you do, even if it's tiny. It's all equal because it's all in this present moment. We're in Elul now. This is the month of Tshuva. Tshuva is all about tzedek, tzedek, tirdof in your life, in your relationships. May we pursue wholeness, justice in every choice, in every word, in every action that we do. May our heads and our hands become aligned in this time where the stakes are so incredibly high. And remember, every act you do changes the whole world, the whole universe. May we join together in our actions of tzedek. May we pursue it in every opportunity as it arises moment to moment. And indeed, may we truly transform the world. And let us all say, Amen.